Pew, 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 pew. What's going on? What's going on? How's the deal? How you doing? What's the deal? What's the deal? What's the deal? What's the deal? Welcome back, my friends and my enemies and my compadres and my amigos and my chicas y chicos, wherever you may be, wherever it is finding you. Hopefully you're seeing me live and direct and there's no issues here at the moment. My streaming equipment's been slightly upgraded in terms of software that I'm using at the moment, so hopefully it's not too what do you call it? Hopefully it's not too shaky. Hopefully. Let me actually just withdraw or mute this window just a tiny bit so it's not too loud. But hopefully it's not too bad. Let me just get rid of this. In terms of encoding here, I don't want this to be too crazy. I don't need to have this on the screen. Hopefully it's doing pretty well and you guys are finding it okay with oops. Let me get rid of this, because that's gonna be double sound. We don't want that on the screen. Hopefully you guys are hearing me nice and well, nice and fine, nice and good. Let me know in the chat please how this is coming about. I'm actually gonna load the chat on my phone here just in case my computer does end up overloading and blowing up. It shouldn't overload and blow up, but you know, stranger things have happened to Agostino. Stranger things have happened to me. Hopefully you can hear me. Let me know in the chat if you can. I'm gonna get my thing up on here so we can go dive on right deep in it. We've got a lot of things to talk about, a lot of things to get into, so we don't want to waste any of our times, you know, with all that stuff, and just get right on into it. But let me just hopefully see if I can load this up on my phone. Bear with me a second. Come on, where are you? Why isn't it loading here? Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? There we go, it's live. Okay, cool. Yeah, cool. Got a few of you on here already. It looks like people are listening to me. Can you hear me? No joke, I'm bricked up for this stream. Big up HAK. Actually, let me get up the chat on the screen. Let me see if this works. I've got a little chat box here. It's not the best because I've switched from OBS Streamlabs to normal OBS, so hopefully this isn't too shaky. Hopefully this works and you can still see me. It's a bit maddening in terms of the size. Let me maybe reduce the size a bit. Bear with me. I'm just new to the streaming lark. I mean, let me just, that's all right in terms of size wise. You can still kind of see what you're writing, hopefully, on where you are based and stuff. But yeah, here we are, man. Back in the sector, doing the thing that I usually hate the most. Most of you who have been around here long enough would know I don't necessarily enjoy doing these streams because I feel like I lose a couple of brain cells when I have to cover anything that has to do with flipping Brendan and Brian and the Fire and the Kid and stuff. But you know what? It's more fun when we lose brain cells together, innit? It's more fun when we lose brain cells together. Let me know how I'm coming through in the mic, because my levels are just touching bread. So if I'm too low in the microphone, let me know too and I'll get the microphone up as well. But hopefully the main thing is the stream and the video quality doesn't stutter, because if you've been here before, you know usually my computer and my setup is a bit mad, innit? It doesn't necessarily go the smoothest. So hopefully this is smooth and we have some level of control and we can kind of go through this stream without any sort of issues and stuff, and hopefully it goes okay. But yeah, let me quickly go through the chat. See how you man are saying. Big up Jones from the Netherlands. Big up Jones. Big up Jordan Ray. Big up a guy called the DXJC56. Big up Megatron. Big up HK actually for the super chat. He says, no joke, I'm bricked up for the stream. I'm bricked up too, brother. Thanks for the super chat, really appreciate it. Big up Bart Stanford. They just didn't renew his contract because he's not the best brains in the art. Very true, possibly. Big up to Can Sam 1000, who says that's what Brendan said when the Showtime says they don't want to renew it. And Jordan Ray again, big up now Brendan. So yeah, let me see it's the poll on my phone. I can't get the poll. The poll's still not on here for some reason, but I don't know what the poll is saying, but hopefully I think the results are a little bit unanimous in terms of what people think in terms of if you got fired or not. Now, obviously this is the Random Show episode 20. I'm going to go through mad clips that I've obviously collated. Most of them have been, if not all of them, have been collated from the Homeless Cat subreddit, the Fire and the Kids subreddit, the best subreddit on the earth, on the face of the earth. So if you want to catch all these clips, make sure you join the subreddit. There's already, 50,000 plus homeless cats on there. Don't delay. It's the best subreddit. It's super funny. It's the best place to go to if you're under shitter and you want to just while away some time and laugh. Definitely check out that subreddit. So all these clips come from there. I've got a few clips clips from Joe Rogan. I've got a few clips from Brendan Schaub and shit. A few clips of Brian Callen. So just some stuff I just kind of rounded up that I thought would be good to kind of chat about on stream. We might be an hour long. We might be 2 hours long. Depends on how quickly we get through everything. Feel free to ask questions. Throw out your little jokes on this chat and shit. You know what I mean? Let's use all the PF Chang's lingo that we can, and let's just enjoy ourselves and have a bit of a good time and just kind of get a little bit loose, a little bit fun in the vibes and stuff. What else people are saying in the chat here? Yeah, about the gaslight. Glenn is Schaub negotiated a huge contract with Showtime based off the premise that he would generate big views. This was assumed due to buying like hundreds of thousands of IG followers. He didn't deliver. Okay. The intrigue. Very, very good point. The intrigue raises a good point there. The intrigue thinks maybe Schaub made a rub for his own back by maybe overselling what he could deliver and obviously then under delivering. That could be a good solid point, you know. I could see that happening because at the time, because a lot of people, especially on the subreddit, have always said, and I've never believed this at first, but I'm believing it now as time has gone by. I'm kind of thinking maybe he did fudge the numbers, because I remember back in the day, loads of people were saying on the subreddit, when I think he achieved 1 million followers on Instagram, that supposedly there's no way he's got 1 million followers, no way do 1 million people like what he does and are willing to follow him. They just didn't believe it. And especially I think some people broke down the engagement he gets per post and the comments and stuff. It just didn't seem right. And then I guess some people did some digging and basically found out that he's using bots and stuff, so they didn't really believe it. And I think it's kind of resonating now, because clearly at that time when he was at his peak and he was on Joe Rogan a lot and he was doing all those appearances and doing loads of shows and, you know, at his peak of his popularity, you would have assumed he'd be able to kind of deliver on those numbers if he actually had the fans to actually listen to the stuff, or if his work was good. But it wouldn't surprise me as the years have gone by, the competition has increased in terms of MMA broadcasting and stuff. There's loads of people. Some people don't even show their face on flipping camera, right? They just talk. They just kind of record their voice and stuff and have pictures up on the screen. You've got guys sitting in their bedroom just streaming all day I forgot the guy, I think his name is MMA Guru. He basically just sits in his room and just streams and talks about MMA for like hours on end. No notes, no nothing, just super passionate about what he's talking about. Then you got all the pro guys. The competition just got too steep. So I'd imagine even if he tried his best anyway, he probably still wouldn't have got that contract renewal, because the competition is too tough, especially just on his own show, on his own flipping network. He's having to compete with Luke Thomas and Brian Campbell and stuff. You know what I mean? He can't even compete with those guys, so let alone all the other guys on the free market. So maybe my guy here, the intrigue, has got a good point. That's actually a really good point. I never thought about that. Maybe he did oversell himself and then couldn't deliver. Another person said, Jones said that he bought a whole Thiccc Boy Studios and his whiskey sucks according to Whiskey Taster. Oh yeah, remind me too. I've got that clip loaded too. I've got a clip loaded of the Whiskey Taster, of the whiskey review guy, sorry. I've also got a clip of it just shortened so we can just watch that on the stream, but then I'm also going to show you a link so you can obviously give that guy some views. Make sure he has a good month coming up next month. Make sure his AdSense is popping, he gets loads of money, and that, you know, he can see a little bit of a bump from that off the back of us. Let's give back some charity, because, you know, Schaub would never send that guy a free bottle anyway, so let's help him out by making sure he gets all the views, he gets all the likes and stuff, so he makes a bunch of cash and he's able to kind of continue doing something that he's obviously super passionate about. Obviously it's all to make up for the fact that he's having to drink that fucking whiskey in it, because by the sounds of it, it looks disgusting. And you know why I know it looks disgusting? Because so far, from everybody we've seen who's had a taste of that whiskey, we've not seen anybody we've not seen anyone say like, how do you describe this? So far, we've not seen anyone basically talk about how tasty it is. Obviously, Brendan kept talking about the bottle design, how hard it was to make, the beast of a workout, the beast of a whatever, all that work ethic shit. But no one's ever spoken about if it's tasty. No one said, oh, wow, this actually tastes really nice. Do you know what I mean? And that's usually a sign that something is fucking gash. So that's something to rally home about. But I'm interested to know as well about the whiskey thing. We'll talk about it later on. From what I've heard, Conor McGregor's whiskey, Proper 12, is pretty shit too. People say it's like worse than Jameson, and Jameson's meant to be like the entry standard. Like if you can't get better than Jameson, then it's not even worth paying the money for it. And I think Proper 12 is a little bit more expensive than Jameson, but people say Proper 12 is really shit, but it sells a lot. So are people just buying Proper 12 because they like Conor McGregor despite it tasting like crap, or do people like the actual taste of Proper 12? I don't know what it is. If you guys in the comments know, please let me know, because I'm not the biggest whiskey aficionado. I'd stick to my Jamesons. I might drink what's that one that I like? Bullet. I had Bullet a couple times. What else did I have that I liked that was really good? I had that one that all the podcasters get sponsored as well. That was pretty decent. I quite like that, but I'm not the greatest in terms of whiskey aficionado. So if you guys know if like Conor McGregor's whiskey is meant to be so shit, why does everyone drink it? Please let me know in the flipping chat. I'd love to know about that. So we're gonna talk about that, talk about a Brendan thing, and go on from there. But yeah, there's a few of us already here in the stream. No point waiting for anybody else to pop on, but let's see what else people are saying in chat. And Ariel Helwani won the MMA awards. Congrats, true. Roby Dyrdek was on Fight Companion, asked Brendan Schaub what is long. Yep, I've got that clip loaded up as well, Jones. Jones reading my mind, man. I've got all those clips you mentioned. I've got them all. I've got the whiskey guy. I've got the Ariel Helwani clip as well. What else? Whiskey is $80, but it's no more than $20 bottle. Yep, I've got that as well. No, I've not got that, but I've heard him say that too. Schuab is very cool. So let's just dive on deep into it. Let's get involved. Let's not waste any more time. Let's just do the damn thing. One by one, right? So what clip are we going to go for first? Let's see what a good clip is to go for first. But should we front load this podcast and do all the stuff that you guys want to hear first, or should we do the stuff that I think might be a little bit interesting first? No, let's front load it. Because I hate when people do where they leave stuff at the end because they want to, get people to stay on the stream. It's always a bit annoying. Let me see if I can get where I put it. Where is it? I think it's here, right? Is it this one? Bear with me a second. Where's the one where he explains it on his show? I think it's this, right? No, it's not that. Is it this? There we go. It's that one. Okay, Bullet is the best for the price. Okay, yeah, thanks. Oh, okay. Good to know, Dr. Soppin Throbbin. I didn't know Bullet was a good for the price. I thought it was just a shit one, but I enjoy it anyway. I've always had it sometimes. I bought it a couple times when I do like the old DJ streams or whatnot. I sometimes have it with me. Okay, so let's get this loaded so we can play it here on the screen. Let's put it full screen actually to make it easy to use and to deduce. And then we're going to put it on. We're going to take off the chat for a second, right? And then we're going to go here and it should work, hopefully. Let's see if this works. Yes, there we go. Look at that. It actually worked. Okay, cool. Let's play it now. So we're going to go straight to Brendan Schaub's explanation as to why he left Showtime, or why he got fired. We don't really know. And obviously I'm going to do what I usually do. I'm going to try and let it play for a minute, and then I'm going to pause and then interject and give my opinion. So I'm not going to keep pausing it every 30 seconds. I'll probably try and pause it every minute to about a minute and a half. So please bear with me. If I don't do that, then obviously excused. I'll put the link in the description when I upload the video for the full video if you just want to watch it by yourself. But this is a stream, so I'm going to interject a few times here and there. Hopefully you don't get too annoyed with me, and if you do, let me know in the comments and I'll try and stop. But yeah, this is Brendan explaining why he got booted or left Showtime.
Or Showtime goes, but it is official. I've decided to leave Showtime, and it's official January 1st. And this isn't like some crazy breaking news for the guys listening back on the East Coast right now for Showtime or for Espinoza or Brian Daly. I talked to Brian Daly this morning. This was a decision I made months ago. I think a lot of time when people leave, certain jobs and stuff like that, there's a sense of sadness, and that is not the case here. This is a case of, I've been with Showtime for 5 years, and what we've done, we've built some cool stuff, man, and it's nothing but great memories. And this all started, this is how crazy life is, man. This all started when Conor McGregor decided to fight Floyd Mayweather, and they needed a MMA guy to argue that Conor McGregor had a chance against Floyd. And a mutual friend of ours, of Brian Daly and mine, goes, oh, who would be great as that? Brendan Schaub. And so I had no relationship with Showtime before that, man. And we started talking, and the next thing you know, it was between me, I think 5 other guys, and your boy got the gig. And I ran with it, man. And then when that got done, I had this weird chemistry with the staff, with Brian Daly, who's kind of the head of digital.
Okay, I'm going to pause it at 126. First thing to notice, have you guys noticed, those of you who are around when I did the stream about Brendan and Ariel's back and forth, have you guys noticed that he has the same sort of like frog stuck in his throat, dryness, tenseness, looks like he's on the sounds like he's on the brink of crying. They did when he did the back and forth with Ariel. Remember the last apology he did with Ariel when he kind of was like, oh, everyone lay off. He kind of did that weird fake apology, not apology explanation why he's being a douche. Don't you think so? He's acting the same exact way, which leads me to believe what he's saying isn't necessarily true, because the reason why he was so tense and nervous and weird when it came to Ariel was because deep down he obviously didn't want to say that apology, but it was going too far, and Ariel was obviously clearly winning and sweeping the floor with his entire team. He didn't want to continue going back and forth because it wasn't good for business, so he decided just to kind of wave the white flag just so he could continue telling his jokes and doing his show, not because he felt sorry or because he was wrong or because he felt that he did anything wrong. So he's doing exactly the same thing. But to go back to what he said, I do think he has a bit of a point. I know some of you won't agree, but I do honestly think that might have been the best version of Brendan Schaub when it comes to fight analysis, when it comes to insight from an ex-pro MMA, UFC heavyweight, when it comes to just somebody that genuinely loved the sport. Because I would argue now, again, similar to flipping DSP's lexicon, or similar to DSP's flipping use of language, but I would say that quite possibly Brendan now doesn't enjoy watching the MMA, doesn't enjoy watching MMA, doesn't enjoy watching UFC. He doesn't really love the sport the way he did before. Again, understandably so, because he got kind of fucked over with the UFC. He obviously had a bit of a bad falling out with Dana White, which is never good. Even though he's a piece of shit, you don't want to fall out with your boss because it's going to make you doing your job harder to do. He obviously didn't have the greatest time when it comes to matchmaking. He obviously had some brutal knockouts, so he's got a bit of PTSD there. But he clearly lets that seep into his analysis, because below the belt is terrible when it comes to analyzing fights. Like legitimately, I'm a casual fan, right? I catch the odd card here and there. I might not watch the whole thing. I might just watch the prelims. I might just watch the main card, whatever. I'm a casual fan. But I can genuinely say if I committed to like a week of analysis and watching prior fights and just making notes based on just what I see with my eyes, not with being a martial arts expert, I could do a better show than him. I could actually present a better kind of rounded show in terms of MMA. He just doesn't seem like he's passionate about it. So I generally do think that time when he was kind of cucking or kind of licking Conor McGregor's balls before the Mayweather fight, that was actually the best version of Brendan when it comes to analysis. Like, he was super balls deep. He was giving some legit reasons as to why he thought Conor could win. Of course, Conor didn't end up winning, and most people were looking at him like he was crazy, but all his rationale, all his reasonings for why he thought Conor could win, it came from a real place. It came from a genuine place where he was actually, thinking about it. No, think about it this way. How he stands, how he throws punches, unorthodox, all this stuff. It was actually proper analysis. Like, he actually committed to watching some prior fights of Mayweather, of McGregor, and then kind of fighting his case as to why he thought Conor could win. The only thing I'd say that's a slight concern with this statement, what he's making it seem is that it sounds like he didn't actually believe Conor could win, and he just played that role so he could get a job at Showtime. It kind of sounds like he did it pay for play, a little bit. I don't know if maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it kind of sounds pay for playish. Maybe I'm again reading too much into it, all that regard, but it sounds a little bit pay for playfish. But maybe I'm being wrong. Let's quickly see what the thing says here in the chat. The bullet's good. Robert Perez says, "Oh, big up Robert Perez. Not seen you in a while, brother. Hope you're good." He said he built the worst comedy special of all time and some shitty fight shows. LOL. Yeah, that's a good call. It's like he's having a direct plot of something. Yep, for sure. Eric C says, "Fuck United. Manchester is blue." Eric C, man, leave me alone. Why are you always saying Man City is blue all the time on all my streams, bruv? What is wrong with you? Let me suffer in silence, bruv. Honestly, give me a time. Glenn S says, come on, let me tell everybody that I chose to leave Showtime. LOL. Robert Perez says, Brendan has a point. Just see is innocent. Damn. You guys are horrible. The XCJC56 says, you can tell he got fired. Dude sounds like he's been crying all day. It's kind of sad. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying too. Like, as funny as it is for us, the Traxxas to be dancing on his grave to some extent, which I'm not. I'm just kind of commentating on it because he's a public figure, right? I'm not dancing on his grave. I'm taking no pleasure in this whatsoever. It's still a little bit sad though. Do you know what I mean? Considering that he's basically, his whole identity is about being the MMA guy, being the podcast guy, being the sneaker guy, Big Brown, drinking coffee, donuts. You know what I mean? He's got these little things that he kind of latches onto as a form of a personality, which is a bit sad, but it is what it is. We have to kind of make do what we're given. And now he's having to reinvent himself now in the midst of a pandemic, in the midst of all his friends that are in comedy moving away from LA, and he's basically doing it on his own. But this is also a good thing for him because it's going to prove if he's really about it or not. Can he sink or swim? Because he's always had someone to hold his hand. He's always had a co-sign. He's always had a quote-unquote big brother figure. But now he's legitimately doing his own. Like Brendan, Brian Callen's no use to him anymore because he just beat a flipping rape case, or just about beat a rape case. I mean, he's not going to help him in any way, shape or form. And he's not in a position to do so. And he probably can't do it anyway, even if he wanted to. Joe Rogan's, moved to Texas, and that's it really. Everyone else kind of like, is much of a muchness, so he's kind of having to do it on his own completely. And if he can succeed now, it would definitely prove that he's a proper businessman beast that he thinks he is. But this is the real test. All the stuff that happened before was just kind of handed to him again. When you were one of the most guested shows on the JRE back in the day, that it's easy to win if you're just consistent. If you kind of keep appearing on JRE show and you keep recording your show every three times a week, you're probably going to be successful. The only people that don't be successful on JRE are the ones that go there unprepared. You don't really have a podcast, you don't really have a website, you don't have anything that people can kind of bounce to once they see you on that show, and then you lose the momentum. But if you have something to sell, you have something to showcase, blah, 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 you can still usually leverage it into other things, and obviously he did that pretty well. But let's continue again, another minute and a half, and we'll pause it once more.
Over there. And I'll never forget this. It's after the fight, after Conor lost to Floyd, and we're at a sushi spot in the MGM, and we're all set. They're all celebrating, and Brian Daly goes, "So what's next, man? What's next?" And I thought, well, I figured you'd ask that, and I had a plan of what's next, and that's when I pitched him on Below the Belt TV show, and that's when that kind of took off, man. That's when we did the Below the Belt TV show, which was in downtown. I had my own, TV show, man, which was insane. You're going sound stages and all this, the sets and all this crazy shit, man. And that was a wild ride. And what's crazy about all the stuff we've done, the TV show, and then what came from the TV show and the Food Truck Diaries and all this stuff is, you realize what you want to do. And for me, learning at that pace and having my own network now, realizing what I want to do, what works for me, what doesn't work for me. And it was all, Brian Daly, hats off to him.
Okay, so let's pause it quickly there. He's talking about this TV show as if like it was a TV show. It was more of a web show, right? And if we're honest too, those early shows were brutal, right? Because again, it's not hard, it's not easy to do. I've done it only a couple of times in my life, presenting in front of a camera, reading a teleprompter. It's fucking difficult, and even I have a problem reading out loud, right? And I'm not dyslexic or anything, or I don't have CTE, and I find it really difficult to read out loud, and to also not look like you're reading out loud, and to also not be awkward with your hands, and to also have good posture. Like, it's just difficult to do. So don't I don't begrudge the guy, but it was terrible. Those early sort of pilot shows that he did on Below the Belt, where he is, if you remember, it's just some deep lore, but he was wearing like a blazer that was clearly too tight for him. He couldn't button up or anything, and the sleeves were too short, and he'd just be talking, trying to be entertaining. They create these little weird comedy segments about MMA and shit. Again, there was a good idea in it in terms of it being like an interactive kind of, loose MMA show, because that's the thing. I understood what he was going for, because if you think about it nowadays, when it comes to MMA analysis, when it comes to coverage or fight card reviews or fight card previews, most of the people that do it are quite serious, isn't it? They're quite analytical, they're quite geeky, they're really knowledgeable about the sport, about martial arts in general. It's not really laid back and relaxed. So I understand why he was trying to make it more like a lifestyle show, right? By having it a bit more relaxed, by having it be a bit more fun, maybe bring up some memes, whatever it may be. But he just wasn't a guy for it, because he doesn't have the comedic chops. That's a problem as well. Again, weirdly enough, being a comedian, he doesn't have the looseness, the kind of charisma, whatever it may be, to make that show work. So it just came across really stiff, because he was trying to read the teleprompter and not make mistakes, obviously, because it's a big deal of a show he's doing. But to say it was a TV show is a bit of a stretch. Now, he might have as a pilot, it might have run a couple times on TV. I'm not denying that, but I'm sure they probably quickly figured out it wasn't working. And if you remember that whole Blazer series where he was he had different cameras and he wasn't sitting down in a chair and it wasn't just a podcast, it quickly changed really quickly. It went from being him in a Blazer to him sitting down in a podcast. I think they quickly realized that it wasn't working out too tough, and he kind of admitted defeat. But again, the issue I have, or the issue that most people have with Brendan and someone like him in terms of his personality, he can do no wrong. There's no point of like self-deprecation and be like, you know what, that TV show we started, it was a great idea in my head in principle, but looking back on it, oh my God, those videos are so cringe. Don't bring it up again. Remember that small blazer I had on, trying to read on the teleprompter. If you think I struggle now with ad reads, you should just see me reading a teleprompter. That should be a point where you just try and make it funny, but he doesn't. He just skips past it, makes it seem like it was a great TV show, as if like, you know, everything was perfect and stuff. It's like, come on, bruv. We've all got the video. We know what happened. Do you know what I mean? There's no need to lie. Quick go up the chat. What people are saying here, Roberto Perez is saying it's sad because his lack of talent is catching up with him. How many more breaks is he going to get? He's probably scared. Yeah and no. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm a bit like desensitized and a bit like cold about this sort of shit. When it comes to entertainment and when it comes to stuff within the arts, if you manage to kind of fake it till you make it to a certain point, you should take advantage of that. Whether it's making money, whether it's giving yourself a new position, whether it's putting your friends in position, take advantage of every opportunity you have, because you know nothing is guaranteed. And you also know if you're faked it till you make it, most likely a person that is legit is going to come up behind you and take your spot. You know that's going to be the truth. You know it's going to be the reality. So to sit there and kind of expect those good times to last forever is pretty naive, and I would say quite infantile to think that way. Most people that fake it to make it know that it's going to end soon, and they always have an exit strategy, whether it's the amount of money you make, whether it's what job you're going to get. They always have a route out to get out of it. And I think he just assumed the good times will just continue, because he didn't really ever in his mind, probably even though he speaks to Joe Rogan a lot, I don't think he ever really believed that Joe Rogan was ever going to move to Texas for real. He didn't think his friend and his mentor in Brian Callen would get accused of fucking rape. He didn't imagine Chris D'Elia would also go down for sexual. He didn't imagine all these things. He didn't put these scenarios in his head. So obviously when they happened, it caught him off guard. But I don't have any sympathy or sorry for him in that regard. I just think he just didn't prepare for it well enough. And again, now he has to show and prove, because he genuinely thinks he's a beast of a businessman. He talks to himself as if like he's what is it, like an up and coming Steve Harvey. I forgot what's that thing he said, something about Steve Harvey. He made up that story about Mayweather seeing him and saying, "Oh, you're that white boy that works too much," or something, right? He clearly thinks he's better than what he is, right? Which is good. You need to be delusional. Again, I'm going to say this honestly, because I think some people don't really recognize this sort of stuff. If you want to have a career in the arts, a career in entertainment, or career in anything really, anything that's hard to do, anything that's oversubscribed and there's not enough positions in it anything that's oversubscribed and there's not enough jobs to fill the demand, you kind of have to be a little bit delusional. So I don't mind his delusion. I don't mind the fact that he thinks he's this big kind of mogul guy. But now is the time to show and prove. Now you got put into a corner. You've got none of your friends around you. The Theo Vaughn thing is kind of waning, it feels like. Just king of the sting. He's hardly there. He's always making up excuses that he doesn't want to be there sometimes. There's 4 other people on there. It's a bit of a shit show. Obviously the Brian Callen thing happened. Now he has to show and prove. If he legitimately thinks this Thiccc Boy Studios thing is going to be a big deal, now's your moment to show us that you're that big business guy with the big brains and shit, and you can hustle and you can make money. Because in all actuality, it shouldn't be that hard, really. Think about it. It shouldn't be that hard. He should have done this a long time ago. He should have had a few more shows in-house aside from the Below the Belt already running concurrently. He should have used that exposure, that leverage he had from Showtime to obviously bring more attention to the stuff he's already doing, but he didn't do that. So now he's kind of playing catch up, but he should have done this already. But now it should be easier to do, to kind of double down on your audience, give them what they want, make some behind the scene content, maybe subscription based, some stuff, whatever. Just kind of expand on this little network, a little universe he has going on, and just kind of build on it. It shouldn't be too hard, but again, it's kind of easier said than done, isn't it? People saying here on the thing, what people saying here on the chat quickly is saying he got his what's that? He still got Callen and Theo. D'Elia is a mainstay at Calabasas fight companion. He's straight. Half his audience hates him already. He'll be fine. Yeah, I'm sure he'll be fine, but I just don't know how successful it'll be in terms of what he wants, because clearly he wants everything. Do you know what I mean? And obviously he's got a big family to take care of. He's got expensive habits. Do you know what I mean? It's a lot of I'd assume his monthly expenses are no joke. So this is a no wonder he sounds so like anxious and nervous and kind of dry mouthed, because this is a big step. You know what I mean? He's not got that cushy check, because imagine what he was getting paid from Showtime. Let's not pocket watch, but let's kind of imagine what he might have got paid from Showtime. It was probably a decent amount, right? He was getting a month or a year as a salary that he was able to use that to bust it down, to fund this, to fund that, pay a couple of salaries. Right? I mean, that money from Showtime probably fed a lot of people and kept the lights on in a lot of places. So now that's gone, you have to supplement it or make it up with other things, and that's a lot. That's a lot of t-shirts to sell to make up a Showtime salary. It says here, the Intrigue says he negotiated an informal sit-down show. They pulled the production budget. Problem is, this gave show license to not do any research. Yeah, exactly. True. Very, very true. I don't understand it, man. Like, from what I see of Schaub, he doesn't strike me as somebody that watches a lot of sports. Like, I watch football, obviously keep up with skateboarding and stuff that I'm obviously interested in. I might see the odd MMA card and stuff, but the football's my main thing. It's pretty impossible for me to kind of get some run-of-the-mill fact about football wrong, like a game that's coming on, or a cup competition that's happening, or somebody that's out injured. Maybe some other stuff I might get wrong, but in terms of the overall nitty-gritty of the sport, I know it like the back of my hand because it's the thing I watch the most. So I don't understand why somebody in his position, who's again a former professional athlete in that sport, didn't want to watch tape or do research or whatever. It's just he'd sit there and read Wikipedia articles and Wikipedia fight records and stuff. Like, what? Brendan is inventar. Roberto Perez says, yeah, very true. ABD Rego says good times ended after they bailed on Chris D'Elia. Very true. The Intrigue says he also sold his wife's G-Wagon. Really? Is that true, The Intrigue? When did he sell his wife's G-Wagon? She's always bragging about that car. From what I've seen on the Friday on the Kids subreddit, she always posts herself driving it. Rotted. That's a big deal because he said that that's her dream car, no? He made a big deal about being able to afford it at the time. So, whoa. Sounding harsh. Josh Brooks said he sounded like he was about to cry the entire time. True. He's the show. Sorry, I deleted one by accident here. It says, imagine all the mates, they being alleged sex offenders, is going to end badly. True. Lepantiman says, again, the question is when this all runs dry, who will be going to rag on? Very true, if there's any sense. He's also realizes how hard he's ripped and critiqued other people, blah, blah, blah. And career's now, his house is on fire and he's falling down on him, and for all of us to see. Anyone notice how? Yeah, true. That's very true. Maybe it's all coming back to bite him in the ass. I'm not really sure. Roberto Perez says, again, honestly, he should just buy some investment properties and rent out this bunch of places. Call it Thiccc Boy reality. Thiccc Boy Tiger reality. Imagine that, mate. But yeah, let's carry on. Another minute and a half.
Yeah, man. He just allowed me to just do what I wanted to do, man. I think a lot of time guys, when they work, because Showtime is owned by CBS and Viacom, stuff like that, I think there tends to be this assumption that they limit you or they suppress you or they clip your wings. That is not the case here, man. They don't really edit me. That's just not the case here at all. I have nothing but good things to say about Showtime.
We can tell, brother.
And as I talked to Brian Day this morning and told him I was going to make the announcement today. This isn't goodbye. This is I'll see you later, man. I'm going to do my thing. They're doing their thing. They're doing great. They have all the smoke and, Morning Combat with Luke Thomas. And, they just won an MMA award. Like, they're crushing it, man. Campbell. Those guys are crushing it. And, I love Luke like a brother. And he knows he can call me anytime he needs anything, man. Anything. They can call me. And Daly knows that. And
what about BC?
I just can't say enough nice things about Showtime. And to let a knucklehead like me run amok and do all these crazy things that I've wanted to do. I can't thank you guys enough. And it's just time for me to I do so much stuff to do it exactly the way I want to do it. And I have the means to do it now. And, I've put everything I do, from stand up, doing the
Yo, that throat and mouth is dry, man. He is nervous. He's worried. He's stressed. But again, the worry and stress, I understand about it, but it does seem like he's lying about this whole leaving thing. And again, I don't understand it. Like, this is, I guess it's just a standard thing about Hollywood and maybe Hollywood in general. Because you would imagine at this point, now that he's kind of stepped away from the shadow of this big corporation, this big network, that he'd want to maybe paint himself as this young, scrappy guy kind of fighting against the system, trying to make his own way and do the things how he wants to do it, right? Sell that narrative. In order to sell that narrative, you need to kind of lower your guard a bit and be a little bit vulnerable and be like, yeah, this is a big step for me. I'm really worried. I've got a lot on the line here. Obviously I didn't want to leave Showtime, but the way things worked out and the shows that they've got coming on at the moment, it probably seemed the best time for us to mutually decide to walk away. Again, you don't need to say you got fired. No one needs to embarrass themselves online, but you don't need to spin it in a way that makes it look like you decided to leave and go somewhere else, because we don't believe that. No one believes that you walked away from a check like that, because his entire career so far, we've seen from Brendan Schaub and Brian Callen, especially with The Fire and the Kid. I forgot what the production company was called, the one that was handling their podcast, but they made no effort to go out on their own and try and make the show a success. They made no effort to do that. It was always under the kind of control and the sort of indirection and help of these kind of, I don't know what I forgot what it was called, like a podcast production company. I think they handled the ads or something. But he could easily done it on his own. They could have easily just done what Joe Rogan's doing and just did it on his own. So then he reaped all the rewards and all the money came to him. But instead, they had some stuff handled by somebody else, the studio, all this stuff was happening. But he could have done it easily on his own a long, long time ago. This whole idea of a network or this whole idea of a studio, it could have been done ages ago, really easily. And they could have been raking in the money and living super clean and healthy. And again, that whole podcast partnership thing ended up kicking him in the ass, because when Brian Callen got accused of that rape allegation, he had to kick him off the show because the sponsors didn't want to sponsor it, and because he wasn't in charge. The real bosses of the show said, no, he can't be on it, because if he is, you're not going to get sponsor money, and again, you're not going to get ad reads. And the main thing that gets them to go in those chairs isn't because they like to speak to the fans, it's because they get a bunch of money from ads. But then again, that's what happens in the end. So I don't really know why he just didn't try and spin it as like I'm the Goliath and they're the David sort of story, instead of making it, no, we're just two Davids. Instead of saying, we're two Goliaths and I decided to walk away. We don't believe you. No one believes you that you decided to. And again, we believe him more if he didn't do what he did to Ariel, and if he didn't do what he did on the Fight Companion in general, right? All that bitterness that came out of him when he was talking about Ariel and saying that, Ariel's only there because I said no. Now we know why he said that, because at the time when that thing happened with Ariel, he was probably already in negotiations with Showtime, and it was already indicated to him at that time. Because I remember as well, someone said on the subreddit, again, the subreddit is the best, homeless cats, big up all of you guys, right? Because I remember someone on the homeless cats subreddit said back in the day, I think it might have been early, I don't know when it was, something like, they clipped something. Maybe it was flipping, what's that guy who clips all the clips on there? Spitfire or something. Spitfire, right? I think he made a clip where Brendan was on the show and he was pretty much in a bad mood, quite grumpy throughout the entire thing. And someone was saying that, I bet you his deal with Showtime is going to end soon. And quite soon after the fact, that's when the whole Fight Companion thing happened, where he said this thing he said about Ariel, and that beef whole spewed. So clearly he knew from a while back, maybe a couple of months ago, or maybe more, that the Showtime deal wasn't going to get renewed for whatever reason, whether they decided they were going to scale down because they didn't have enough money, or because they decided to go in another direction, whatever. They clearly just told him, we're not going to renew your contract. And then from there, he had to kind of, scamper and work out this deal with this big, do this whole Thiccc Boy Studios thing, which again, credit to him. I'm sure he got the heads up last minute, and he had to kind of, pull his resources and start hustling. So fair enough for doing so. And then again, managing the Thiccc podcast, and obviously helping Brian to come back on there, getting Crystalia to get another shot on an opportunity on the Fight Campaign. He's done well for given how back against the wall he was, but the lying and the spin to make it look like he left and he wasn't fired, it's just unnecessary, really. Who cares, isn't it? Just admit defeat a little bit, put your guard down, allow the ego, and just say, it didn't work out, right? Towards the end, maybe things changed. Maybe I did get a little bit I did get a little bit sloppy. I wasn't really coming prepared because I was going through stuff. Whatever, just say something. Come on, man. Allow the embellishment for embellishment's sake.
Road to all the podcasts I do and this network I do, I've taken every kind of savings I've had, I've invested into Thiccc Boy Studios, and I've hired a staff, and I have the exact team I need to flourish. And I hired monsters who have the same work ethic as I do. And now, obviously Chin's with me, and Chin's been my ride or die since day one, and Chin has a bigger role now. And every vision I have, I can pull off now, and it's on me. I'll always bank on myself, man. And that's what we're doing. And
quickly stop it there. There's a lot of I talk in it. Fair enough you mentioned Chin there, but it's not really, you don't really get the sense that he's kind of being able to gather the troops in order to kind of get this collective spirit that they're going to go arm in arm and try and fight the big corporations or networks. It's more so about I want to prove to everybody, or Showtime specifically, and ESPN, all these places that maybe gave me the boot, or that I can do it, that I'm the guy. And now he's going to try and prove it. It's less about his network and his group and his employees and whatever, or the other people he's got on his network are all an afterthought so far. It's just been him. He spent the first 5 minutes basically talking about himself, but then he mentioned Chinde and some other people he's hired, but it's a bit weird.
I'm just so excited, man. And like I said, this isn't a negative thing. This isn't a bad thing at all. And I love the guys at Showtime, and I'll still be involved in some capacity. But as far as Below the Belt and Food Truck Diaries, Below the Belt will change to the Schuab show, and that will be on Thiccc Boy only. And then Food Truck Diaries will also come over to Thiccc Boy. So we're still doing Food Truck. Also, we're still doing Calabas Fight Companion. I'm adding a bunch of other stuff. I'm also taking all the shows I do. I do too many shows, but all the shows I do, all the shows I'm involved in, I'm taking all of it. I'm still going to be on the same platforms, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, all that stuff. None of that changes. We're actually adding shows to that. Adding shows to Thiccc Boy, the vlogs, all the other things we have coming up. I'm so excited to announce all that. We have so many shows adding to Thiccc Boy. But one of the things I'm doing is...
So, adding loads of shows onto Thiccc Boy. So far, what have the marquee shows been? They've been the show with Mustafa, right? Mufasa, as I think he calls him, as Ariel calls him, where he basically does what? Does the same sort of more plates, more dates sort of show, right? Talking about people if they're natty or not, giving workout tips, analyzing people's abs and shit. I don't mind that. The guy's a little bit of a weapon. You know what I mean? He's a little bit of a knob in that regard online in terms of his essays he writes back to people and thinking that he's smarter than what he is. But in terms of being on camera, he's a pretty chill dude. He seems quite charismatic. He seems to be able to hold the show down. He seems to be quite funny in his own way. So I'm sure that'll be fine. The Chappelle show where he's going and talking to his friends. Again, the Chappelle show, if he focuses on, what's it called? Chappelle show, Chappelle World. If he focuses on talking to people that are in bands that he knows because he's really knowledgeable in music and shit, that would be cool. If he turns into anything else in that, like comedy, you know what I mean? No one's going to turn in. But I think if he angles it as a way to kind of promote people that he knows are in bands, or maybe showcase newer bands, or talk about monumental, points in his history, or influential points in his time, over influential moments of his life, basically when he kind of discovered a band or went to a festival or a significant show, that might be a good thing. What else is going to be in the network? Cat show, was it Pussy Bandit? I don't know who's going to tune into that one. She seems a bit dense, to be honest. Yeah, I know she's got a big following on flipping OnlyFans and whatnot, but how many of those Thiccc Boy, Fighting the Kid fans are going to actually listen to her talk about sex and whatever? And again, she's not really talking about sex though, because she's in a relationship. I don't know how that works when it comes to female podcasts where they talk about sex and relationships. If you got a boyfriend, does anyone really want to hear about you just fucking your boyfriend? Not really. You know what I mean? That's why the Call Her Daddy podcast works in the beginning, because they were both two single girls in the city finding their way. You know what I mean? Like smashing and dashing whatever they can along the way. That's probably more intriguing to listen to as a male or as a female. So I'm not too sure about that one. Who else is going to have a show? He's probably going to give Chin a show, I'm assuming. Some sort of show, I don't know, maybe about fishing or about being boring and flipping eating Korean barbecue. I don't know what else he's going to do there. So it's a little bit thin on the ground in terms of shows that can carry a network and give him the money that he can replace and Showtime peas with. That's going to be the big struggle in that regard, I see. And then, all the platform stuff, yeah, makes sense, innit? Keep him on the same platform, all that good shit, but I don't know, man. He doesn't really have the strongest supporting cast, it feels like. But the interesting part about it is that it sounds like Showtime are going to keep Below the Belt. So they're going to keep it, rebrand it maybe, and have a new host. And it's going to be pretty clear what they really want to do with the show when they give it to a new host, because we're going to see somebody go into it balls deep, do the research, whatever it may be. I mean, it's gonna be a completely different show, I think, when it goes to another host. The Food Truck Diaries is a good idea to keep in house. It's a good idea for him to keep that IP. Because if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure Food Truck Diaries might be the second highest viewed thing in his little empire of things that he does after Thiccc. Might be the most consistently high views. And again, maybe his botted views, And again, he pays, supposedly, according to Ariel, he pays guests to get on the Food Truck Diaries. So that obviously skews it a little bit. And he's obviously interviewing some top level guys in terms of Food Truck Diaries. He's not really ever talking to kind of up and coming people that no one really knows. There's always somebody that's kind of hyped. So maybe that kind of skews the numbers. But it's going to be tricky, man. It's not going to be easy for him. That's for sure.
I'm taking everything going over to Supercast, which is a subscription thing where everything I do, you'll be able to get and more ad free. You don't have to worry about ads, any of that stuff. And there's a bunch of bonus content there, but that all start in January. Nothing changes. Around a bunch more. Everything will be under Thiccc Boy. And that's it, man. And I can't thank Brian Daly and the team at Showtime enough for taking a chance on a meathead like me, man. And I'm just proud of what they've built. And I'm proud of Luke Thomas, and they won their freaking MMA award. You guys are killing it, man. And I'm here. Like I said, this isn't goodbye. This is see you later, man. I'll see you later. And Brian, I love you. And everybody back at Showtime working, not only here with Malka in the Santa Monica office, but everyone in New York and Espinoza for, I don't know how many times that guy stuck up for me, and Nevins, just always having my back, and just everybody at Showtime and, on the East Coast. We didn't see each other enough because I'm a West Coast baby. So I appreciate you guys, man. I know a lot of work goes into it. You guys won't have to hear from me anymore. If the show comes out late, or if a graphic is off, or if something wasn't done right, that goes on somebody else. And that's the way it should be. So I love you guys, man, and all the work you put in. Hopefully you learned something from me, because I definitely learned from you guys. And I'm excited to see what you guys do next. And if you ever need anything, you guys have my number. And make sure you like, subscribe to Thiccc Boy. And I love you guys, man. But this isn't the last show on here. I think December 31st, my last official day with Showtime. And again, for the fans out there, this isn't something they weren't aware of, anything like that. This happened months ago. And I think some of you hardcore fans out there figured it out when I launched my own Thiccc Boy kind of YouTube and the direction I was going with things and stuff like that. But it's just
nah, man. This is I'm calling it, man. This is a lie. He definitely got fired for sure. He definitely wanted to stay. They decided to move in the other direction. It caught him off guard during the pandemic. He probably panicked. That's why he was stressing about Ariel. And I think somebody mentioned in the chat, that's why he probably started drinking heavily that time too. It all coincided. Even though he was supposed to be developing his whiskey, I'm pretty sure he was drinking heavily to cope with that pain. His wife looks like she's got expensive taste. He's got kids in private school that go to, I think his kids go to the same private school as, like, I don't know, what actor did they say went there? Someone's crazy. Like, he put his kids in a private school that he probably has no business putting them in, to be completely honest. But again, it's LA. He's come from nothing in that extent. When you got your kids, you probably want to do whatever you can for them and give them the life that you could never have when you were younger. I understand it, but the way he's talking, how tense he is, how dry his mouth is, the fact that he looks like he's trying to be somewhat mature about it, because I think in the past he would have probably fired off the hip a little bit more and been a little bit more flagrant about what happened, what went wrong. But he clearly has been told by his agents and stuff, because I think he's managed by CAA people, so they're legit. They're probably telling him, look, don't fuck it up. You got told to skedaddle, but it happens all the time in Hollywood. People tell you no all the time, but you just opportunity to kind of go back to a drawing board, do your own thing, prove this. Because the thing at the end of the day, even if we all don't rate him, this is a good opportunity for him to prove that he's as a bigger deal as he says he is. Because if he can make all those shows work under the Thiccc Boy Studios network kind of idea, whatever, YouTube channel, and he can get the numbers to be the same as they were prior, with no little drop, maybe with an increase, maybe you can get some viral clips going, develop a show, maybe develop some talent that goes on to do other things, that will really look good on him. Do you know what I mean? He can be able to leverage that into getting more money and getting more deals. That's the real kind of test, and that's a real opportunity that's kind of on the table for him. But again, does he have the talent? Does he have the ability? Does he have the charisma? Does he have the ability to be introspective, all that sort of stuff, to make it work? I very much doubt it. But again, stranger things have happened.
just time, man. I feel ready, and I'm banking on myself, and I got a hell of a team behind me, man. I got a hell of a team, and that's been the key to my success with anything. I have some brilliant people behind me, and Brian Daly's one of the most brilliant men I've ever met, and he's going to go on and do big things, man. I'm excited for him. And Lewis with Malka, both close friends, man. So thank you guys so much, man, for taking a chance on me. And I love you guys. And I'll be around, man. This isn't goodbye.
Nah, come on, bruvs. No one believes that he left, man. Look at that face. Look at that face. That's the face of someone that went to cry. Where is it? It's here. Look at this face.
He's going to go on and do big things, man. I'm excited for him. And Lewis with Malka, both close friends, man. So thank you guys so much, man, for taking a chance on me. And I love you guys. And
that's a very sad face of a guy. And again, not to take any joy in him kind of obviously falling flat on his ass, but it is what it is. The game is the game, whatever, innit? Entertainment, he'll be able to have an opportunity. He's still got a chance to kind of springboard off of it. You leverage it. I'm sure later on down the line, he'll probably be able to have a chance to go on JRE and promote his whiskey or promote his network when it fully launches or promote his special. He'll be fine. But again, does he have the ability to learn from all of these mistakes? Do you know what I mean? Does he have the ability to do it and kind of build from it? I don't really know. Let's see. Anyway, a couple more minutes to go and then we'll move on.
I'll be around, man. This isn't goodbye. It's just, I'll see you later. I'm in Calabasas. So that's it, man. So it's official. I'm leaving Showtime end of this year, and everything will be under Thiccc Boy. And we have some big announcements happening there. But food truck, the Schuab show, everything you see will all be on Thiccc Boy. Still doing food truck. This show, you don't have to worry about the audio. The RSS feed stays the same, but the video will come over to Thiccc Boy officially. It's called the Schuab Show. We're redoing the set, everything, and we had some fun surprises for you guys, man. So it's going to be a big year. 2022.
If he does a Schuab show, fair enough, right? Another MMA show he's going to do, or he's going to talk about MMA and fight cards. It's an easy win for him, but please, man, just do a tiny bit of research, my guy. I can't understand why a former UFC heavyweight, a former legit heavyweight that was in flipping, what's that thing called? What's that show they do? Whatever that show does, where I don't know. Is it whatever that show is, what he did before, that reality TV show that he did, right? Like, he's a legit UFC guy. He was there at the, I wouldn't say beginning, but at least at the middle, in its kind of infancy, right? He got all that early rub. He was at the time when they could put flipping sponsors on shorts and shit, right? He had a good time there, a good opportunity to make some money, get some exposure, use it as an opportunity to leverage into other things. Obviously, his relationship with Joe Rogan could blossom during that time. He obviously blossomed with Brian Callen. Why doesn't he just show a little bit more passion, a little bit more excitement about the thing and just do a little bit of research? Again, you used to fight in that flipping sports organization. You used to do that shit before. You should have a whole different perspective in it. That's why probably people, it's the same thing people have a problem with DC at the moment, right? DC is getting ragged on for his analysis, but it's the same reason why, because he is clearly an intelligent dude, clearly well spoken, clearly super passionate about the sport, loads of experience, former champion. He shouldn't be phoning it in. He shouldn't be paying people to do research for him. He should be able to sit down for a week and bang out some notes, look at tape, make some, impression, like write down some ideas on what he's seen on tape, because again, he's been a coach before as well, all this stuff. Like, you should be able to have a level of insight that money can't buy, right? A level above whatever everyone else can kind of deduce from what they're watching, but he doesn't. He just phones it in. Same thing with Brendan Schaub. Like, don't phone it in, man. If you got another chance to do another show, at least take it seriously.
It's going to be a big year for your boy. So wrap all this up. Showtime. I love you guys, and I'll never forget what you guys did for me. And I'm excited for you guys next year. And Brian Daly, I love you so much, man. And thank you for taking a chance on your boy here, man. All right? Now let's get to the fights. Some great fights, man. You had some great freaking fights. What a way to close out the year for the UFC. Biggest year in company history, I think.
It's not closed, though. There's another fight card happening this weekend. Does he not know there's another fight card happening this weekend? Or was he just saying in terms of the legit sort of like UFC numbered fight cards? This is another fight card. I know it's a fight night happening, but
pay-per-view wise, they're killing it, man. And I love to see it. I love to see it. We did a Calabasas fight campaign with Roby Dyrdek. Rob's actually, I think a lot of you guys were surprised. You didn't realize how big of a UFC fan Rob is. I knew that, but I think some of the fans like, oh, he's just the skateboarder funny guy from Ridiculousness. He's a big fan, man. He knows his shit. He's trying to bet Brian. I knew that, but I think some of the fans like, oh, he's just the skateboarder funny guy from Ridiculousness. A UFC fan Rob is. I knew that, but I think some of the fans like, oh, he's just the skateboarder funny guy from Ridiculousness. He's a big fan, man. He knows his shit. He's trying to bet Brian a lot of money, and Brian probably should have took that bet. Yeah, it was a fun dynamic, man. You know, that show, you know, you're drinking, having fun, stuff like that.
Anyway, that's that done. Yeah. Anyone sitting there who genuinely believes that he left Showtime off his own accord, you're smoking on that good Zazazi, and I want whatever you're smoking. He clearly didn't leave of his own accord. Like, no one leaves, especially somebody like him, would leave those kind of checks behind. Nothing in his past has shown that he's wanting to or would be willing to do anything on his own. He obviously got put into a corner, and then he had to launch all these things back to back, which is why it all got so rushed so quickly. If this was a plan all together, he would have done this a little bit more strategically. He rushed it all because obviously he had no other option. He needs to pay his bills, needs to keep people on salary. He's obviously got things he wants to do as well in the future, but this has all been an afterthought because clearly they told him, we're not going to renew your contract because of whatever reason. The reasons we don't know why, but for sure he didn't walk away of his own accord. It's for sure a thing of like, we don't want to offer you a deal. He said, cool, I'll go somewhere else. And because it's Showtime and they're a big network, they don't really mind if you spin it another way. They don't really care, as long as you don't go out there and kind of begrudge them and say some nonsense about them online or in press or no media. They don't really care how you spin it because they don't have to pay you anymore. Do you know what I mean? As long as you just don't say anything negative about them, it's all good. So they probably went to some sort of agreement. He was able to come out and say, yeah, I left of my own accord, but nah, I don't believe it, man. No way, shape or form. The guy seems too nervous, too scared, too apprehensive, he just seems a little bit worried, which again makes complete sense, like I said, because I'll assume Brendan Schaub's monthly bills are no joke. We've all seen what his wife sells on flipping Vinted or whatever those shops that she sells her shit on. You know, she's got expensive taste. He's got 2 kids, like newly, you know, kind of under 10. One's in private school, one's, you know, whatever, I think a baby or whatnot, right? He's got cars, I mean, he does stuff, he buys stuff, like he likes to find things in life. So it's probably a nerve-wracking time for him, but I don't believe that he walked away of his own accord. I don't believe that. I don't care. I do not care. What's people saying here in the chat quickly? Oh, let me get up on the screen, actually. I'll keep mucking about. Sorry, I'm really crap at this shit, bro. Let's get up on the screen. There we go. I'll read a bit of it to myself here. What people saying here? This dude's talking about like a breakup. Yeah, exactly. Robert Perota Pires says CBS on Showtime. Yeah, him in words, man, messes them up more than I do. Jones says, "All You All Smoke" is a podcast he could learn from. True. That's a good podcast. Of course, they are going to sack them compared to Merc. Gun Show says he just had too much work ethnic for Showtime. Very true. Glenn S says here, yes, he also immediately started drinking on the Thiccc show. Yep, I mentioned that. Jones said Chappelle's World. Yep, that's his show. Robert Pires says, I mean, he's either really dumb or really smart. He has to know his numbers. The real numbers, I don't think they're good. So that's what's his deal, taking all the shows. They just admit he doesn't. You know, he given enough time to. Yeah, I think that's the main problem with buying views and buying bots and stuff. I think it's all well and good. There is some how do you say this? I understand the rationale of buying views when you're starting out, right? If you want to maybe, not even starting out, if you're in the middle of your process of kind of becoming something, right? Because you're using the buying of views. Usually people do that so they can leverage it to get other things. Not because you want to make it look like you've got a big show, but you want to make the numbers look big so that you can get ads, right? And you can get maybe sponsorship, and maybe you can get invited to play. I don't know, whatever. That's usually what you do it for. You're not doing it to fool people into believing that you have one of the biggest shows in the world. No, you're doing it to fool the sponsors and the advertisers to be able to give you money so that you can do other things. But then once you do the other things, you stop faking the numbers because, you know, it doesn't matter then because you got the money in it. That's usually what you do. It's kind of like highway robbery. But I guess the issue that he's kind of done, it feels like he's kind of used the botted views and the buying views on a consistent basis to make up for obviously the lack of quality of the show, maybe the lack of appeal that he has, whatever it may be. And that's never a good idea. That's always a big faux pas because eventually it'll catch up on you. And now that he's been, you know, he's off the Showtime roster, he's kind of on his own, quote unquote, maybe he doesn't have as much money to spend. Because again, if you're getting a Showtime salary, you can probably afford to spend 10 grand. Again, I'm not accusing, I don't know what he does with it, but let's just assume you can probably afford to spend 10 grand on some botted views on some botted likes, on some botted comments, on some botted followers and whatnot, because you can do it the right way. Because the right way is to spend a lot of money. We build it slowly. You don't just go out and buy 1,000 followers. You do it the proper way. I've seen documentaries about it where you spend big money. They make sure that the followers are from, like, what they call them, I think they call like a farm, right? A bot farm or something, where they like all your stuff. They leave you comments and shit. But obviously, when you go on people's profiles, you realize it's fake. But that's the way to do it. So I think that's when we fucked up a little bit. The intrigue says Kat frequently talks about her getting her ass ate, and it's rumored she got a Brazilian butt lift with OnlyFans money. Yeah, I saw that. I saw that rumor on the Thiccc subreddit. They said something like at the time that she went off and she was off sick, supposedly, people were alleging that maybe that's when she got her butt lift done, because allegedly her butt looks a lot better than what it did in the past. Which again, fair play to her. And if she's got the money to do so, why not? It would be hilarious if Bisping got a show in that slot. Oh, imagine. Because people always say Bisping is like what Brendan should be, in it, right? Charismatic, well-liked, like adored. Like Brendan clearly looks like a guy that if you went back to a UFC fight card and you got put on screen, people would boo. People might throw shit at him. He already had that weird running with Nate Diaz. I'm sure Dana White still hates his guts, so that's why he don't go to fights anymore. Or maybe he can still go, but he just doesn't feel comfortable because of all that hate that exists in the air, and just generally how poorly received he is by the MMA fan base and stuff. I'm sure it could change, but he doesn't have the ability to be like self-deprecating or to a little bit funny. But if Bisping got it, people would rub it in his face, like, you know, Bisping's a better version of you kind of thing. They would definitely would. Whatever people are saying here, the MMA commentary space is saturated with so much better talent now. He'll fade into the background. Yep, that's what I said earlier. Jordan Ray, Sam Ohm said, "Who watches the Slow Fight Companion? Is fucking horrible. It's just him interrupting Joe Rogan. Was fun and crazy, but entertaining. Nothing entertaining about this straight drinking CTE forward." That's the thing. Good point, Sam. The original Fight Companion was only good because of the guests that are on there, right? Eddie Bravo. Brian Callen, Eddie Bravo go back to back. Joe Rogan trying to keep the sanity in the room. Brendan agreeing with anything Rogan says. That dynamic kind of worked. It made the show fun. But then when you remove those guys, and again, Brian Callen's like a shadow of his own self now, right? He's a skeleton of his own self because of what he's gone through, the rape allegations. He's still kind of suffering, and, you know, clearly he's a bit on tender hooks. So he's not his best self at the moment. You got no Eddie Bravo, and then you got the fill-ins in Crystalia again, who's kind of coming off the back of a big allegation, and then whoever the other guest is, who's just kind of, you know, a little bit, you know, not used to the format a bit and needs to get time to get used to it. Live streams are hard to do. No wonder it's so shit. And again, Brendan again isn't, in my opinion, I don't think is the best host. I think if he wanted to make that show successful, he should probably switch it and have an actual host that stays on there, a permanent host that kind of like stitches the show together, maybe throws up topics and whatever, and conversation starters in between fights or whatnot. You know what I mean? Or some stories you might see on the news or memes and shit or video clips. That might be a good way to do it. And then have Brian, Crystalia, and Brendan then be the comedic kind of influence on the show with maybe another person. But there should be maybe an off the mic sort of host and moderator person. I definitely do think so. It shouldn't be Brendan because he's not good at it. He gets too drunk. He obviously doesn't enunciate his words too tough, and just generally isn't the right person to be on that sort of show. But anyway, let's just move on in it. Let's move on to some other things. We'll talk about some other topics, some other clips I've got here that I thought were going to be of interest to kind of talk about, since we've obviously spoken about Brendan allegedly getting fired, not getting fired. We're also going to quickly touch upon one of the reasons why he probably got fired. Again, this is a clear example as to why maybe he's not there anymore. This is a clip from the Below the Belt show where for some reason he had no idea there's another fight card happening this weekend, which again shows that he's poorly prepared, clearly doesn't have love for the sport anymore, and is just basically phoning in at this moment.
This fight's this weekend too?
Oh, yeah.
Shit.
Yep.
Derek Lewis, Dukakis. This fight's this weekend too?
Oh, yeah.
Shit.
Yep.
Derek Lewis, Dukakis.
Like, how can you not know that? Someone tell me, how can you not know that there's fights this weekend? Please, someone tell me, how can you not know that there's going to be fights this weekend still? Again, I'm not saying you should know the whole entire card. Actually, I think you should do, personally, in my opinion. If you don't watch another sport that deeply anyway, you should know who's playing or who's fighting on that particular weekend. But how can you not know? Like, it's just inexcusable, really. Like, and this man, again, I think he took advantage of that Showtime position, man. He didn't use it enough. Like, he took advantage of that paycheck. They were paying him probably good money. He just showed up and kind of essentially phoned it in every single time he recorded, and eventually caught up with him because the competition, like someone said in the chat, got way more saturated and way more better in terms of quality. The standard is super high. There's podcasters with like hundreds of listeners who are doing some great work, really small dudes who no one really knows anything about. So Bubba, like, you can't Bubba or Papa, you can't come around and just do some minor thing and think you can get away with it. Then there's another clip I want to play here. This is courtesy again of the Foreigner Kids subreddit. It's Brendan Schaub basically talking about how after the Fight Companion where Roby Dyrdek was on, he tried to kind of give Brendan some advice as to where he should go and kind of give him some pointers or probe him in terms of motivations for what he wants to do in terms of the show he's doing. And clearly Brendan felt a little bit inadequate. And he's using this as kind of like a bragging thing, as a weird bragging thing. Like, I didn't know what to say. I don't know. It's a strange thing to flex on, really. I don't really understand why this is a good flex. It's not a good flex because it proves that he doesn't really have a plan for what he's doing. He's just kind of winging it. And again, this is a clip courtesy of the Fire and the Kids subreddit. I'm going to quickly play it for you now.
This way. When you talk to Rob or you talk to people who are highly successful like that sometimes, you feel like you're the only person in the room.
Yeah.
They give you all their attention.
Yeah. Wow. He's such a good person.
And it's genuine. You know? Damn. That's what I find fascinating. And also,
but you know, like you'll throw out like he'll be like, man, he's like, so I gave him a studio or gave him a tour.
Run down to the studio, yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, this is great, man. And then he's like, so what's the goal? I was like, you're looking at it, man. So I built this. And he's like, no, I see that. And you're adding shows. I go, yeah. And I told him, actually announced it today. I'm below the bell. I'm leaving Showtime January 21st, or I'm sorry, December 31st. Everything will be under Thiccc Boy.
Yeah.
The below the belt changes the Schuab show, and food trucks come over to Thiccc Boy, and all the things. And I'm telling him all this stuff. And he goes, no, I hear all that. But what is the goal? In 2 years, what is the goal? And I go, I'm in it, Rob. So what I'm doing is, no, I know you keep saying that, but so you're going to do all
specifically what's the
he's
number?
like, you need to figure out what's your end goal for building all this. Like, what's the end game? And I was like, I just go, dude.
Yeah.
I just go. And
I think he's
out.
right. I think that a lot of people, from what I've seen, and like, so if you read books on people who study highly effective people, right? They'd write these books.
I don't read.
Hold on 1 second. What is it there? I don't read them. Oh, God almighty.
Quincy Jones was this way.
You
talk to Rob.
Pause. So, clearly this isn't a good thing in my opinion, because that clearly shows a lack of preparation, a lack of care, a lack of attention to detail, a lack of foresight, a lack of planning. And it also proves to me, like I mentioned before, that he definitely got fired. It was definitely a point where they got told, hey, we're not going to renew your contract. And then he scrambled and tried to set up the Thiccc Boy Studios in order to kind of keep the wheels turning, make sure he keeps the lights on, pays his car note, whatnot. Cool. But this wasn't a long-term plan. This wasn't always the plan. He never had the plan of always maybe going to Showtime, stacking up the money, using that money he's getting from Showtime to then build his own thing. No, he was always just going to rely on having a check from Showtime, having a check from his own podcast, having a check from doing stand-up. That was always what he wanted. Those kind of 3 different pools of money coming in. But it was never a plan to kind of take it and do his own thing, ever. I don't think so. I think maybe eventually he might have wanted to do the same thing that Rogan did and get bought out by a Spotify or whatnot, or licensed by a Spotify, or by an Apple podcast and put on their platforms exclusively. I think he would have jumped at that because essentially he wouldn't have to do anything different, just continue doing the show that he's doing. But there's clearly shows there was never a plan when he kind of, got started with this Thiccc Boy Studios thing. So that obviously should be an alarm bell ringing off in his head that he's not got a plan, but also shows that he's just doing it to keep up his lifestyle, really, for the most part. Doesn't necessarily have a point of view he wants to share. Doesn't really have a perspective he wants to put out there. Not really trying to offer an alternative. Like I said before, there definitely is a lane for an MMA show that can be a bit more relaxed, that isn't maybe as geeky or as analytical or as balls deep in the details as some of the other shows are. If you want to be a little bit more loose and fuck around a bit, maybe not be as kind of cartoonish as maybe a Chael Sonnen, but somewhere in the middle between a Luke Thomas and who's the guy kind of called? I forgot there's another dude who does it as well. there is a middle ground to be in it, right? In the MMA thing, he could obviously do it because he has the personality to do it. But in terms of having the ability to put it all together, I just don't see it, man. I really don't. I don't think he has the chops, and the fact that he had no idea what the end goal was for what he's trying to do or where he wants to put it is concerning too, because there should be one. Whether the end goal is, oh, I want to get to a point where I'm not the main guy of this network and other people are able to kind of use this as a springboard to launch their own career. Whether the end goal is, I want to develop all these people that are around me that I think are super talented so they can go on and do other things. Whether the main goal is, I want to be the destination for MMA news that's done in a relaxed manner. I don't know, whatever. There should be some little steps that he wants to take. Or even if it's just the end goal is, I want to just get to the top and shit on Showtime once I show them that I was the guy they should have banked on and not Ariel and not Luke Thomas and Brian Campbell and shit. Whatever the goal was. But he didn't say that. It's obviously clearly the goal is to make sure he's able to buy his trainers, keep his cars, make sure the Mexicans happy, keep his kids in their nice schools and shit. Like, that's obviously what he's trying to do, just trying to make sure he survives. And again, I'd imagine it's not easy. LA is not probably a cheap place to survive day to day, but it clearly shows there was no preparation. It was just all kind of, let's wing it, let's see what happens. And then the bit that kind of annoys me at the end, just again, this is just me being nitpicky and just being a bit of an asshole, is this bit where Brian talks about, if you read books about people being educated, being in this kind of way, they've got a certain personality, and he's like, I don't read books, like, so arrogantly. It's like a confident, that's a good thing. Like you said earlier, oh, Showtime never edited me. Yeah, we know, mate, we can tell. That's probably a bad thing. They probably should edit you. They probably should give you notes, because you obviously didn't rewatch the show and try and do things better. You just kept doubling down on the nonsense, which eventually cost you your job there, innit?
I think he's right. I think that a lot of people, from what I've seen, and so if you read books on people who study highly effective people, right? They'd write these books.
Like, what is that to brag about? I don't understand that people that brag about they don't read, as if that's like a good thing, especially when you're working in entertainment and you're working in these fields where, like I said before, the competition is severe, right? There's not enough jobs for the amount of people that want the jobs. It's just oversaturated. So if there's any inch that you can gain, if there's any kind of if there's any inch you can kind of gain on your competition, whether it's reading a book, whether it's going to a seminar, catting what that person's doing, or how does she upload, why not copy it? Why not do it? Because it definitely is going to add something to what you're already doing. If you already winged it and you got to this position, imagine adding some other bits of insight or technique from people and shit. It doesn't do much. It's like reading a Tim Ferriss book, like those 4-hour body books, or he's just, or what's the other book he's got where he talks to people? I've got it somewhere, but he's got one where he talks to people and shit, and he profiles different people in different industries. What's bad about reading those things? Just finding out, or just going to a chapter where he's speaking to entertainment diggers and agents and power brokers and network executives and show developers, showrunners. What's the point? What's the bad thing of just flicking to that page and just reading what those guys say? Oh yeah, when I was developing this show, I had this sort of mindset, and using that to kind of frame how you want to go on with your own journey. There's nothing wrong with it, but this arrogance of like, I don't read it, oh, I could do it on my own. It's like, yeah, cool, do it on your own then, brother. Do on your own. What's people in the chat saying here before we move on quickly? What people in the chat saying? Put up on the screen on the chat what people are saying here. Oh my god, imagine they put Ariel in his slot, said Glenn S. That would be hilarious. Imagine if that happened. Marty Moose says, remember Helwani said Schuab was using Showtime payment to guests as a way to show them to appear on his personal show. I'm sure Showtime wasn't pleased about it. Oh yeah, very true, Marty Moose. Very true. That was a big bomb that Ariel dropped actually about that. Very big bomb. Jones says, loading screen. Cap from it says his voice is cracking. Jones says, imagine him chin working for Ariel. Marty misses, I miss Eddie Bravo. Me too. Dude was legit hilarious. I definitely agree. Eddie Bravo's definitely missed on that LA podcasting scene, man. I knew he was getting fired months ago, says Josh Burke. It was obvious they didn't need him anymore, and they have actual analysts now. True, because like I said before as well, he started drinking a lot a few months ago. He also started to become a bit more in a pissy mood, if you remember. He came on the show and was a little bit pissed off. I think people mentioned it on the subreddit that he clearly looked like he was a little bit angry, agitated about something. So now we know why. 30% of the chat voters are redacted. There's a clip floating out there with Brendan saying he thinks he'll take over Rogan's spot. What? Shut up. Who said that? Hey, Albizu. Please, if you have a clip of that, please send it in the chat. Or please let me know where I can find it. does Schaub generally think, what do you mean Rogan Sport? Does it mean like in terms of he thinks he can be the commentator on the UFC? That's never happening. Unless flipping Dana White drops dead, he's never going to work for the UFC. But what? I think Schaub went for the dentist 5 years ago and forgot to take those weird foam things out of his mouth, says Lepentamain. Too true. Forgive my laughter, says that Rob guy just gets off on sounding like the smartest guy in the room. Bit of a cunt. I can see what Schaub means by just I'm in it. They just I understand what you mean, forgive my laughter. I get it. Rob was he's kind of a Hollywood guy, similar to, I forgot who that artist was, the producer who I heard in the podcast. There's a kind of LA personality, a kind of person that just is a smoocher, but those kind of like, well, I don't know how you call them. What kind of personality would you say? I don't know what the name is, but I know what you mean. But I don't think he comes across as a cunt. I just think he's very successful. And once you're successful in Hollywood and you've been able to prove it over a number of years, maybe even if it's the same shit, it doesn't matter. It's no coincidence. It's no kind of surprise that you've got a little bit of a douchey vibe about you, because it's so difficult to make it. It's so, there's a lot of good shows that don't get past season 1. So the fact that you've got many seasons under your belt, plus you've got offshoots of the show, plus you've used it as a platform to give other people careers, you give people ability to kind of pay their mortgage and shit. It's no surprise you can walk a bit with your chest puffed up and you can be asking these philosophical questions in the middle of a podcast. It's no surprise you want to do that, because you definitely feel as if you have something to offer, and people obviously want to talk to you because they think you have something to offer them as well. So I don't know. I don't get that douchey vibe from that, but I know what you mean. Painting narratives, yeah. The new glasses are much better than the thing ones. These aren't new, actually. These are old. But thanks for saying that. The only reason why I'm wearing these is because I lost my other ones. So I'm still going to have the other ones. But maybe I'll just switch them. Maybe I'll just use these ones for the stream and use the white ones for my podcast, because that's something that's kind of known or associated with the podcast more. So maybe that's something I'll definitely do. But these aren't new. These are definitely old. I just forgot my old ones in the other place I was at because I'm a redacted. That's why I forgot them, because I'm a redacted. Let's move on to another clip. This is a funny clip because this is Nostradamus, right? This is Ariel Helwani telling us before it happened that Brendan quite possibly wasn't going to be in a good position later on down the line. Do you remember this clip? Courtesy again of the Fire in the Kids subreddit. Do you remember this, guys? Do you remember this? Do you remember this?
Who's partnering with you guys? Who are you working with? I remember you on Fox. Not anymore. How's that going? How's the ESPN stuff going? How's the Showtime stuff going? How's all that going? Who's partnering with you guys? Who are you working with? I remember you on Fox. Not anymore. How's that going? How's the ESPN stuff going? How's the Showtime stuff going? How's all that going?
Ariel knew, man. Ariel's too smarmy. Ariel knew. Ariel's too smarmy. He's too petty. He's too Helwani at the moment. Ariel had to have known. I don't care. He had to have known back then that this flipping ride was ending. But he's a good guy though, because if the shoe was on the other foot, and if they were going back and forth, and Brendan knew that Ariel's job was on the line, or that he had been fired, or he'd been let go, it didn't work out, he would have definitely said something way more offensive or way more gut into the punch, or punch to the gut, sorry, than what Ariel said about him, for sure. But Ariel kind of held off on that one. He insulted everything else about him, his crew, his comedy, blah blah blah, but he kind of left that Showtime thing out there. He obviously dangled a little carrot in front of us and told us, hey, this guy possibly isn't going to be in the best position later on down the line, but he didn't really expound on it too much. He just kind of left it in that position. So he's definitely a good guy in that respect. Let's give him the blight in that regard. Okay, we spoke about that one. What else are we going to move on to? Please bear with me. Oh yeah, for those of you watching again on the stream, make sure you like as well the stream if you like it. And of course, if you are enjoying the show and you want to check out more stuff on my channel, then why not subscribe, innit? Why not subscribe? Why not subscribe? What are you waiting for? If you like what you see and you're enjoying the show, click that like. If you want to see more, obviously subscribe, turn on the notification bell, all that good stuff. You know the vibes. What else we want to talk about here? Oh yeah, let's go on this one. Let's because I think we've done most of that, right? Yeah, let's do this. So let's move on to the Brendan Schaub, what's it called? Whiskey, right? He's got a whiskey coming out, or he's got a whiskey that's out at the moment, actually. Not coming out, I think it's out at the moment. And so far, the reviews haven't been great, right? From what I've been able to see, the reviews have not been the best. It's pretty clear that this Thiccc, is it Thiccc or Thick Tiger? I forgot what it's called. Thiccc? I think it's Thiccc. Yeah, it's Thiccc whiskey that Brendan has coming out isn't the greatest, right? It's pretty bad from what I can see. Everyone he's giving it to in terms of his friends, they just kind of taste it and don't really make any mention of how tasty it is or how nice it is on the lips, or on the tongue, or on the back of whatever. They just don't mention anything. It's all kind of like right? But there's no real kind of descriptive words to say that, oh, this is really surprisingly good or this is shockingly bad. They just kind of refuse to make comment, which leads me to believe it's probably the latter. And this this whiskey review guy on YouTube decided to review it, and the review's kind of gone a bit crazy with some of the Fire and the Kid fans obviously on the subreddit, because he clearly wasn't that familiar with Brendan Schaub prior, but he obviously wasn't a big fan of the whiskey either, because he's a legit whiskey dude. So definitely recommend you give this guy a view and you check out all the stuff that he does, because he's clearly a funny guy. We're not going to watch the entirety of his of his review on YouTube, but if you can, definitely give this guy a follow. His name is The Rot Gut Review. I think you can see it here on the screen. Can you see it there, right? This guy here. So please follow The Rot Gut Review. That's him there, right? Follow him obviously on YouTube. Give him a like. I've already given him. Give him loads of views. Make it help this be his best month on YouTube. Let him make loads of extra AdSense money, and just kind of build off the back of this, because why not? Because Brendan's not going to give this guy any charity. He's not going to send him a freaking free bottle to review, especially not after this review. So let's help the guy out and make sure that he's doing good off the back of this. And let's of course watch this little 1-minute clip someone put together on the Fire and the Kid subreddit of some of the best bits from his review of the Thiccc whiskey, which in my opinion, again only me, I think is maybe one of the worst names I've ever seen for a whiskey, because it sounds like Tiger Cum. Maybe it should be called Thick Tiger. It maybe just should be called Tiger Whiskey, whatever. It just sounds terrible as a name. And the bottle of course looks even worse, because it looks like a bottle of massive soy sauce. But again, maybe that's just me. But let's hear what the Rot Gut Review has to say about Thiccc whiskey.
All right, let's get a taste. This is interesting. I don't like it. I don't particularly like it. I gotta be 100% honest. However, it is interesting. The nose was very much like I would imagine a kind of light Speyside malt or a blended Scotch kind of deal. The taste is much, much more bourbon. A nice sweetness on the front. You get some cherry in the middle palate.
So it starts good, but it ends badly.
It's not super complex, but it's good. The issue is the finish. It kind of comes off like wet cardboard. Definitely not the worst thing I've tasted.
Wet cardboard. I think this is what's called damning with faint praise. Future Eid. Imagine calling the aftertaste wet cardboard. I know the guys on, because I follow the guys on Whiskey Vault and Whiskey Tribes, right? They're amazing. I've got their two names, but they're really cool in terms of me kind of getting an idea on what whiskeys to buy on the weekend. I think I've got, what's one I've got recently from them? I think it might have been Blackbird or something I've recently figured out from them. So usually I'll type in, I don't know, whiskeys under $50 on their channel or whatever, and they, you find out some whiskey reviews that they've done, because they've been doing it for years. Definitely check those guys out, Whiskey Vault and Whiskey Tribe. And they usually have some very descriptive words to describe whiskey, because I think one of the guys like a legit whiskey sommelier, so he obviously has a very wide and varied vocabulary, and they use really great words, right? They'll maybe say this smells like the when you finished going swimming class in your school and you're changing the change room, this smells like a sandal on a hot beach, whatever, right? They've got these really descriptive words. But when someone says that your whiskey tastes like soggy cardboard, right, at the end, right, when you finished it, that kind of aftertaste that's meant to make you want to go back and pick up a glass again, that's pretty damning, right? Is that what you said, right? Soggy cardboard or something. Let's play that again.
The finish, it kind of comes off like wet cardboard.
Wet cardboard.
Definitely not the worst thing I've tasted. It's very middling, though, because for the nice cherry notes, the nice woodiness, you're also getting this young green, this cardboardiness, and honestly, something that tastes a little soapy.
Soap.
I wonder if there was some saponification going on in here.
Jesus Christ, man. And again, we're not surprised though, as fans. We're not surprised, because we definitely saw from the reviews that we've seen, and from Brendan constantly going on about the bottle design and the amount of time spent on the labeling and all that nonsense, that clearly the quality of the whiskey wasn't good. No one spoke about the taste of the whiskey, the finish, the flavoring, the depth, whatever. It was always just about that. And again, since he's introduced it, remember before when they were trying to what's that thing? What's that whiskey everyone was talking about on podcast? I forgot, but there's a particular whiskey everyone was sponsored on podcast for a while, and everyone kept mentioning it all the time, how much they went to drink it, because they kept getting it for free. But this is obviously a whiskey that he's made, and they've not even spoken about it too much on the show. They don't really drink it too often. I don't think he got that great of a view on the flipping Fight Companion with Roby Dyrdek the other day. So clearly it's not a good whiskey. And then to make it worse, to compound the issue, supposedly the guy is selling this flipping whiskey for like $80 or something, which is crazy from what I've heard, because I think this guy goes on to say that supposedly, I think actually on his show, on his channel, let me see if I can find it. Let's just quickly switch over so I can minimize the screen. But I'm pretty sure he even said on his own channel that he thinks the whiskey isn't worth more than, what did he say? I think he said he's not worth more than $20 or something in terms of price. I think he even says it here on his channel. Let me see. I think he's got it here, right? Yeah, this is it. Yeah, he says it on his own channel. He pinned a comment. He says, let's double check it. Bear with me a second. There you go. Oops. Sorry again. Oops. There you go. Yeah. There you go. He says, yeah, so I've been informed that this is priced at $70 to $80, which is frankly ridiculous. It's only slightly better than something like Old Thompson and should be priced accordingly. And from what I've heard, again, I'm not American, but I've heard supposedly Old Thompson is meant to be like the bottom of the barrel. I guess it's whiskey that comes in like a plastic bottle or some shit. It's a $20 whiskey. So if it's not as good as that, then and it's being sold for $70, $80 is insane. Maybe in Brendan's defense, he could say maybe they're making small runs of it, so they have to maybe increase the price margin on it, but I don't think so. I just think he thought he could get away with pricing it the way he priced it. It's a blend, whatever it may be called, different design, and you thought you could get away with doing that price. But the whiskey market is competitive as fuck. There's loads of really good whiskeys out there. To price at that range just seems a little bit, idiotic in my experience. But again, maybe there's a bigger plan involved. Maybe this is part of the first rollout. I don't know what's going on, but it just seemed a little bit dumb. But yeah, give this guy a follow and subscribe to this guy, the Rock Gut Review. I'm definitely going to check out some of his more other shows as well. He obviously does a pretty decent Brendan Schaub review here. He also starts out saying, what are we doing here, right, if I'm not mistaken. Did he start saying that on the show? I'm pretty sure he did say that. Let's see.
What are we doing here?
Yeah, see?
Drinking some Tiger Thick.
Doesn't that
I was told I was supposed.
Doesn't that bottle look like flipping soy sauce or like vinegar sauce or something to you? It's such a strange bottle design for a whiskey, innit? Look, especially when you compare the whiskey he's holding in his hand to the whiskey he has on the shelf behind him. Like in terms of the bottle designs, right? Again, maybe it's a point because he wanted to make it unique, but it doesn't look like whiskey, does it? The labeling doesn't look like whiskey. Maybe the only thing that make it looks like whiskey is maybe the top, right? With the little cork and everything else doesn't make it look like it's actual drink you can actually drink, right? It looks so bizarre as a bottle. Really, really strange design, to be completely honest. The label, look how massive it stretches from the top to the bottom there. It's a bizarre shape, isn't it? Very, very strange shape in terms of a bottle design. But hey, maybe we don't know what we're talking about here. Let's go back in the chat quickly and read a few of these before we end. Let's go here. Oops. What people saying in the chat to me. Showtime payment gets I watched a few of his whiskey reviews. He's a funny ass dude. Great. He's not a loser in the traditional sense. Okay, cool. People are liking the Rock Guy review. Eric C says Tiger Dick says Jesse L. What are people saying here? This dude Roy Gut says he'd pay $20 for a bottle of Tiger Thick. Yep. What was people saying? Yeah, Lacar's data note said he's just stepping aside to make room for other people, like he did the Ariel Helwani. True, LOL. Jihad said this is interesting. I don't like it. Yeah, that was definitely a great line. In this is interesting. I don't like it. Papa says talking about my beast of a whiskey. Proper 12 isn't as bad for 40 whiskey. Okay, cool. I might actually test the Proper 12. I might actually get a bottle and have a little taste test. I want to actually see what it tastes like. Because from the reviews I've seen, people always say it tastes horrible. And people always make funny faces when they're tasting it. Maybe they're just trolling. But again, Sol's right. Holy shit, Papa just entered the chat. What? Papa talking about my beast of a... Okay, true, fair enough. And then... I think we should end it on a high note and end it with this compilation someone put together of Brendan Schaub interrupting Rob Dyrdek for the entirety of the podcast, which I thought was hilarious to see. Again, big up all the flipping homeless cats that put this one together. Join them on there and on the Fire and the Kids subreddit, one of the best subreddits on the internet out there right now, especially if you want to have a little bit of a laugh whilst you're on the shitter and stuff, or preparing your breakfast or just fucking around. Definitely go check this out. But this is Brendan Schaub's greatest hits via the latest Fight Companion, where he just doesn't let Rob Dyrdek kind of, again, a word in edgeways, which is kind of, standard par for course when it comes to one of the worst interviewers in the history of interviewing, has to be said.
Look, I went and met with Lorenzo Fertitta.
Brilliant man.
And we met, and
Some would say the brains behind the UFC. I didn't say that, but
no, but he's the
money.
mind behind it without a doubt. And like
if fighters had an issue with Dana, so Lorenzo, let me fill him in because he has no clue.
No,
Lorenzo,
you made up a name, Lorenzo Fertitta.
So they own like the Palms, all the
Red Rock.
Red Rocks.
Mm-hmm.
But they're the billionaires that finance
they went to high school with Dana, and Dana said, "I have an idea. We should buy this company, the UFC." At the time, they bought it for $2 million. It sold for $2 billion.
$4 billion.
$4 billion, and the Fertittas were the money behind it. But also Fertitta, if you had an issue with Dana, you'd be like, all right, whatever. You go to Fertitta, and he was always like the level-headed guy who could see your vision.
Oh, but he's the illest. He's the coolest.
Brilliant man.
Like amazing dude.
His kids are studs. Like
but look, when I went,
Okay, so my bad. It's not a compilation, just a one clip. But still, isn't that infuriating? You're trying to explain the story. You're obviously trying to flex a bit that Rob Dyrdek's trying to name drop. When someone tries to name drop, I guess one of the main rules of name dropping is that you should let the person just continue, start and finish their story with a name drop. And then later on, if you want to take the piss out of them for name dropping, you can. But you don't interrupt them in the middle of their name drop. You can't take away the momentum. You're kind of taking the shine away from them. You're just being a bit of a prick in it at the end of the day. And then with this part of it too, he's clearly a bit buzzed, Brendan, right? He's clearly red in the face. Look how inflamed his face looks here. Where is it? Like, look, he's clearly red all over the face, right? He looks like complete shit, in my opinion. And I think I've said this before on the show. I think I've said it before on the show too. I think he actually maybe looks worse in the face than a Bert Kreischer, considering that he's a flipping professional athlete, right? Ex-professional athlete. Like, he looks completely horrible. Maybe it's the head man bun too, but his face looks flamed as hell. Like, for whatever reason, whenever he eats or he drinks alcohol, it seems to always go to his cheeks and to his forehead and shit. He just seems to puff up like a pufferfish. And he's again excited. He's clearly a bit buzzed. He wants to share how much he knows about the Fertittas because obviously he dealt with him when he was at the UFC himself. So he's got some personal experience. He can obviously flex on Rob Dyrdek too because he knows the guy. But it's like, let the guy finish his story first, man. You don't need to just jump in. But he does. And he just looks completely
Lorenzo,
you made up a name, Lorenzo Fertitta.
So they own like the Palm.
And also it's unnecessary detail. Rob Dyrdek's obviously going to speak about him anyway and could basically let you know how big of a deal he is, and he's still trying to interject and he's still trying to make it all about himself. It's like, relax, but he can't relax. I mean, he's still trying to make it all about himself, and in the end Rob tries to kind of move it on a bit and tries to say how big of a deal he is, but he's still not letting it go. He's just not letting it go, brother. He still wants to make it all about himself. But honestly, man, look, Rob's trying, and again, he seems like a good dude. He seems like a chill dude. You know what I mean? Just a standard Hollywood guy, really successful, made it his own way. Kind of, again, the ridiculousness show isn't really something I watch, but again, he's really successful. It's on all the time. It's an easy watch on cable and whatnot. And here's Brendan trying to interrupt and steal the shine from my man. It's just like, come on, man, let him have his shine a little bit. But hey, what do we expect when it comes to Mr. Schaub? What do we expect? But yeah, man, that I think is it of the Random Show episode number 20. Thanks so much for tuning in as per usual. I think that's a good place to flip and end it. We've seen all the best of Schaub. We've seen the best of everything that's going on. It's obviously a big deal. Obviously, this whole Showtime fired, did I walk sort of thing is obviously funny to see from the outside in. Let's see what happens of it. Let's see, is he able to kind of bounce back and realize his dreams and be able to kind of use this as a springboard to do his own thing and be successful? Who knows? Will it end up being a success? Who knows? Has he learned any lessons from his kind of missteps during his time at Showtime? Who knows? There's a lot of unanswered questions. What are these other shows he's going to be adding onto the show, onto the network? He's obviously got, you know, Mufasa's got his show, Chappelle's got his show, Cat's got a show. I don't know if it's in under the big Thiccc Boy Studios flipping umbrella. Maybe Shrimp will have a show too, where he bounces around and tries to look tall. I don't know. Like Chin will have a show probably again, talking about singing terribly and eating Korean barbecue and fishing and shit. Maybe there'll be loads of things that'll probably pop up over the period of time. Whether or not they become successful or not is another question. I have my doubts, but again, stranger things have happened. Maybe he's got his back against the wall. He's gonna be able to kind of fight out of it and basically make it a success because he has no other option. Daddy Rogan isn't around. Callan can't really help because he's compromised. So can't Chris D'Elia. So he has to make it work on himself. So let's see, man. Let's see what happens. But yeah, thanks again for tuning in, guys. It's been a pleasure to have your company. Please make sure you like and subscribe on my channel, please. That'll be greatly appreciated. If you do like what I have to say, subscribe. If you just liked what you'd heard in the stream, just like it, that'll be fine. I'm more than happy with it. Also check out my podcast that I do called the AgostinhoZinga Show. I'm actually going to get it up in here so you guys can check it out, because I want to make sure I'm getting all you guys to subscribe to my podcast and stuff as well. Don't leave the guy hanging, don't leave the kid hanging, so make sure you subscribe on that too. Let me see if I can get up on here for you guys to check out. Definitely check out my podcast that's called the AgostinhoZinga Show. It's available on Apple, Spotify, iTunes, Apple, Spotify, any other place where you get podcasts. You know the standard malarkey. I do it about 3 times per week. I also do a bonus podcast that I put up on Patreon, so definitely check that out. But this is my podcast. It's called the AgostinhoZinga Show. Let the screen load up so you can see the entire thing, so I don't have to wait for it to buffer or anything. Bear with me a second. Is it gonna load? 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 Yeah, there you go. It's loading now. So yeah, check out my podcast if you haven't already, the AgostinhoZinga Show. You see the links to the links to it in the description, hopefully, of this post, of this podcast, of this live stream. You're able to see all the links on it down below. Check it out. I record it 3 times a week. Loads of shows on there. Obviously, I've been doing it for a while, as you can tell via the archive. So if you like some more of a structured show in terms of current events and cultural commentary, then definitely check out the AgostinhoZinga Show, available on everywhere that you get podcasts and stuff. But yeah, it's been fun. It's been a great hang. Thanks again for tuning in, guys. I'll see you guys again very soon. Take care, be safe and stuff, and I'll see you guys again. Oh, and again, timestamps, I'll put them up by the end of today. You should have timestamps all over everything in terms of what I'm doing on here, so make sure you check back if you want to see the timestamps. And I might pull out actually the clip of Schuab announcing he's leaving Showtime and just have that up so you can check that out if you don't want to see the entire thing on the stream. I'll obviously pull that out as well. But yeah, for now, take care, guys.